I swear, Bacon Eggy, I'm in the closet. You just can't see it because this thing will only let me do green screen. It won't let me jump back and forth. I swear I'm in the closet. I have to go teach like any minute now. But I've been going through the 56.1 statement, and I just want to point out the things that are jumping off the page at me. Remember, this is the statement that when Wayfarer filed its motion for summary judgment, you have to file a separate statement of all the facts that you think are undisputed, and then the opponent says what they think is disputed and not disputed, because the standard for summary judgment is there is no genuine issue of material fact. There is no genuine factual dispute. So looking at this, I saw a couple of the things that I was really looking for. One is my relationship with Taylor Swift has now gotten even more complicated. Most of the stuff I can see in here that's really tacky is lively, but Taylor was participating in it, which is really disappointing. I think it's excellent for Baldoni that as early as April 2023, Lively was calling Baldoni a clown and a doofus who thinks he's a writer. This goes all the way through the production. Before they even started principal photography, she was calling him a clown. Jenny Slate called him a clown. Other people called him a clown. She called him a clown later. This is how she saw him from the beginning. That he was not as high a rank as her, that he was an idiot, that she thought he was a dummy, right? She calls him a clown and a doofus and these kinds of things all the way through. You know what she doesn't ever call him? A predator, a creep, a sexual harasser. She hated him before they ever stepped foot on that set. And it's right here in her emails with Taylor Swift. I don't love the fact this was the whole meeting at the loft where Taylor Swift did what she was supposed to do, which is be like, oh, I think the script revisions are great. You know, the only thing we have in writing here is her saying, I'll do anything for you. Okay, fine. But then Lively's email or text to her later. This clown falling for all of it. She was trying to fuck this guy over from the beginning, before they even started filming. Calling him a clown. All the way through. Other people, she called him a clown too. Matt Damon and his wife, and Ben Affleck. This shit is the best. She said, I rewrote the script. I directed every actor. Oh, you're the director now. How interesting. I really like the quote at the end. I ended up rewriting. I also ended up having to direct the movie via the chaotic clown at the center. In other words, he thought he was the director, but I was really the director. I was pushing him around. How's that for a case that's entirely about who had the power on the movie set? And then, of course, she calls him a chaotic clown again. I'm dying to know what these people think. I wonder if they read this and were like, oh my God, Blake is awesome. Or if they're like, ugh, Reynolds' wife, she's a piece of work. I wonder. We'll probably never know. And then again, texting with more people. This time we've added Bradley Cooper, we've added Colleen Hoover, and we've added Taylor. They're talking about using Taylor Swift's song. And Taylor says, you know, if he was smart, he wouldn't let you use my song because you using my song is only because of you, Blake, and that gives you more power, which is probably true. But then Blake Lively says, you're right, blah, blah, blah. This was his only shot at having the appearance of an upper hand. She says straight out, he didn't have the upper hand. I mean, I can't believe it's this bad for her, honestly. I really hate this part about Taylor Swift. This is probably the hardest part for me to read, where I was like, ugh, cringe. Where they're talking about the New York Times article coming out, and Swift says, I think this bitch, I guess this bitch must be Baldoni, I think this bitch knows something is coming. He's gotten out his tiny violin. Now, somebody DM'd me that the tiny violin stuff is in that song Canceled. So maybe that song, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that song was written later, or maybe it was updated after all of this. I don't know. But the fact that Taylor Swift is calling him this bitch, and I don't think she's doing that because she thinks that he sexually harassed her friend. There's no evidence that Lively told Swift, this guy's sexually harassing me and I'm scared of him. What there is evidence of, at least that I've seen so far, is that as early as pre-production, she just thought he was an idiot that she could take advantage of. And Taylor's calling him this bitch. That's a really bad look, Taylor. I'm really disappointed. I'm sure she's really upset about how I feel, but I think a lot of people are going to feel that way. And then the Vanzan of it all. Ugh, I can't get enough. So it sounds like The intermediary between Stephanie Jones and Lively is Ashley Avignon, who is one of Taylor Swift's friends from growing up, who's I think in like brand marketing or something. So it sounds like Ashley goes to Taylor, who goes to Blake, or Ashley goes to Blake and says, Stephanie has a phone that has the most disturbing messages she's ever read in her 20 to 30 years. I don't fucking buy that, Stephanie, not for a moment. And so Taylor's texting, can you believe she just called and was like, this PR chick wants to get info to Blake? I guess Ashley called Taylor and said, we need to get this stuff to Lively. And then, of course, they were told that Jones said Lively deserved to see what had been done to her, and she wanted to share those messages, which I don't think Jones cared about what happened to Lively. I think she cared about what happened to Jones. But anyway, then it goes into, that's how the whole Vanzan thing happened. Then it goes into who Vanzan is and the filing of the case and all the stuff that we kind of already knew. But then, we don't have the subpoena itself yet. It's coming. But we have a quote from it. So Vanzan, they file the case, right? They admit it's Ryan and Lively's company. They file the case against the John Does. And then they serve this subpoena on JonesWorks. I've always wanted to know, what did the subpoena ask for? The subpoena asked for, at least in part, because it's in quotes, documents related to sexual harassment or retaliation in connection with the film. How in the world would Stephanie Jones know which documents were related to sexual harassment or retaliation in the film if Stephanie Jones doesn't know what happened on set? If she doesn't know if there was she doesn't know if Blake engaged in protected activity. How would she know? How could you respond to that? Any decent lawyer who represented a company who got that subpoena would be like, I'm not going to make the decision about what sexual harassment or retaliation is. Those are legal terms of art. So that's fucking nuts. Also, information about the marketing, publicity, public relations of the film. So they just, everything, right? So that's what they asked for, at least in part. Unreal. But then this is, just, how's it go? Chef's kiss. So Vanzan sues the John Does, remember, for breach of contract. And here we have Lively admitting, saying this is undisputed, that Vanzan did not have any contract with JonesWorks or with any defendant. So the contract was not with JonesWorks. We don't know who the contract was because there wasn't any contract, because it was with John Does. They had a contract with somebody whose name they didn't know. But then this part in the parenthetical is killer. Vanzan had no communications with JonesWorks whatsoever prior to the service of the subpoena. So pull back for a second. Vanzan, a company that no one ever uses, that is solely Lively and Reynolds, files a breach of contract lawsuit against people whose names they do not know. And the only action that they take in that case is to serve a subpoena on a company that they don't have a contract with, that they've never done business with, that they've never communicated with before. And the response by that company is, here's everything I've got. It's just as crazy as we thought. I will never stop thinking about it. I'm going to go teach these youngins. But let me just tell you, if I had known 1/10 of what I know today over the past 6 months, I would have thought of this case totally differently. It's not just that she doesn't seem to have, and she doesn't have to prove herself in opposition to a motion for summary judgment. It's not her burden, right? She doesn't prove her whole case. She just has to defeat their motion. But if she had stuff that she thought we ought to see, this would be the time that you would show it. You find a way to show it. It's not there. And the stuff that is there contradicts the positions that she's been taking for a year. My mind is boggled.